Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi. Well, my name is Zach and I am a medical esthetician and makeup artist based in Toronto, Canada. Today I want to have fun and kind of do a fun little makeup look using the top rated makeup products on Amazon's Canadian website. I wanted to kind of play with some more affordable makeup, so I decided to head over to Amazon, sort all their different products, and go through category by category to get a full face of the most reviewed products on Amazon and kind of see how it compared to our Sephora version of this look. So let's jump right into the look. I always like to start by priming my lips, so I'm going to use my CeraVe Healing Ointment as a lip primer. I find this CeraVe Healing Ointment to be just such an indispensable asset in my collection. I use this in my daily skincare routine as like my nighttime lip treatment, and I also use it under my eyes. This is a really nice, it's full of occlusive. It is a petrolatum base or a petroleum oil base, kind of like Vaseline. There's no need to be scared of a product like this. It's a great occlusant or sealant for the skin. It's just going to help kind of create a moisture seal on the skin. This also has an inclusion of some different ceramides, which are essential to maintaining a healthy skin barrier. So I use this on my lips, and if my under eyes are feeling a little dry, I'll even take a tiny bit, run it under my eyes, and it's really wonderful for that. Similar to with my Sephora video, I looked through the categories at some different kind of number of reviews, star ratings, and I did find some interesting things. One, I found a lot of beauty products on Amazon that are well rated. All have a 4.5-star review, so you'll hear me say 4.5-star review. And for some categories, I noticed the top selling item had significantly fewer reviews than the second or third or lower reviewed product, which had triple the amount of reviews. So if there are some situations like that, I will mention multiple products in one category. So today I'm going to do a multi-priming technique. I've got one primer I'm going to use for areas where I have enlarged pores, and that is going to be our Amazon top seller, which is the e.l.f. Poreless Priming Putty. And this product currently has 4.5 stars based on 20,197 reviews, and it retails for $10.97. This product got really popular a few years ago as it was kind of mentioned as like a affordable drugstore dupe to the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. I have that one. I bought this one shortly after. They are similar, but they are different in their texture. I find this is a little bit more kind of slippy and hydrating on the skin versus the Tatcha. So I like to apply this just like the Tatcha, and I'll just take my finger, run it in a circle a few times, and then I'll just press over areas of concern with enlarged pores. So for me, that's going to be the sides of my nose, chin, center of the forehead. And then once I have that on, I just like to use my finger to kind of press the product into the area where I have concerns. So another one that was on their best sellers list is the e.l.f. Tone Adjusting Face Primer Neutralizing Green. This currently has 4 stars based on 3,403 reviews, and it retails for $8.48. So this is definitely a very green primer. So I'm going to apply this towards the perimeters of my face where I'm a little bit more red, as well as my chin. And I'm just going to blend this out. I'm going to take a tiny bit more and apply it to my chin. See if I can't tone down my red chin a little bit. Wow, I feel like this did a really nice job. I mean, it didn't completely obliterate the redness, but it definitely helped to tone it down. And my face doesn't have that kind of bluish tint that my skin can get sometimes with those other redness correcting or green primers. And this has a very kind of silky feeling. It feels very nice on the skin. This reminds me of another one I've tried from e.l.f. Their hydrating primer. It's in a similar container to this, except the little innards are blue. Really nice primer. This feels wonderful on the skin. All right, for foundation, we have an oldie but goodie classic staple that most makeup lovers have tried, and that is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation. I have shades 112, which is Natural Ivory, and the shade 115, which is Ivory. I started off with shade 115 Ivory, and this shade was just a little too dark, a little too kind of pinky orange for me. So I went back on Amazon and picked up the shade 112 Natural Ivory, which hopefully will be a little bit of a better fit. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this foundation, it does come in a glass bottle with a pour spout. Need to be mindful about how much you're getting out because a little bit will go a long way. So I normally just place my finger on top, shake it to get a little bit of product. And then I will dot it where I have the most discolorations. So I'm going to blend this out with my BK Beauty 101 Contoured Foundation. And this is not a new foundation to me. I had this foundation early on. It was either this or the Estee Lauder Double Wear, which was one of the first foundations I bought. And it might have been this one because when I first started wearing makeup, I couldn't really afford higher end makeup until I started working at the Estee Lauder counter. So this could have been my first foundation. It was very soon after I got this that I got really nice foundation. Now I did apply a little bit and kind of spread it out just because I tend to like more of a lightweight foundation. But we can build it up because I do have like a blemish and stuff that I want to cover up, and I want to see if I can get more of an even base. I'm doing this video quite late at night. I have nowhere to go, so I'm going to have a little bit of fun with the makeup today. An interesting thing I noticed with Amazon, when you're looking at the list, sometimes they will have specific shades for a product listed, and other times they won't. For this foundation, the shade Fair Porcelain was the one they had listed. This foundation is building up really well. So here we have two kind of thin layers, one all over and the second one just to kind of add a little bit of coverage where I wanted a little bit more. And I forgot to mention what the reviews and stats are for this foundation. So the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation has 4.5 stars based on 60,176 reviews, and on Amazon it retails anywhere between $7.55 and $9.98. So even though there is a discrepancy in price, it's still very affordable, coming in under $10. For concealer, I was not surprised and I was very excited to see this, but this is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. On Amazon, the shade Kohl Ivory was listed. I have shade 110 Fair. And on Amazon, this has 4.5 stars based on 21,165 reviews. And it retails for $10.98. So this concealer has a little sponge top. If you're a freelance artist, I always suggest taking this off because you cannot sanitize this. If this is your own, you're only using it on yourself, I say use your own discretion. I keep the sponge on because I love how this concealer applies with the little sponge. So once I've kind of drawn that on my face, I'm going to use my BK Beauty A506 brush to blend this out. And I know I've talked about this concealer on my channel before, but I don't know if I've ever expressed my love for this product. This is a concealer. I have 3 of them. So I have the one here in my makeup room, I have one in my washroom for getting ready on the go, and then I have one in my bag, in a little makeup bag for kind of quick touch-ups. I love this concealer. I'm doing YouTube, being a freelance makeup artist for years. I've tried so many different concealers. This concealer has just been a standout for me. It is one of the most beautiful concealers on the market. It never really looks too heavy. It never looks cakey. It's affordable. The closest thing I've found comparable to it high end be the Lancome Mackie Complete Concealer, which was discontinued, and they replaced it with the Lancome Tantadol Ultra Wear Concealer, which I do like that concealer, but sometimes I find it a little dry, and this Maybelline concealer is a fraction of the cost. I think it's just as good, if not better. So here is foundation, concealer applied. I've built it up to, I would say, a light medium coverage. You can still see some hyperpigmentation showing through. That's okay for me and my personal aesthetic because I do like some of my natural imperfections to show through. No powder has been applied yet, and my skin, since I applied things quite thinly, it feels set. Looking in my mirror up close, I don't see any type of signs of enlarged pores, and that does kind of make sense because our primer is called Matte and Poreless, and my skin just feels soft and velvety. Now we're going to powder, and powder is another drugstore gem from Maybelline, and that is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder, and I have shade number 10 Fair Light, first kind of like affordable drugstore videos where I reviewed the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation. I tried out this powder in the shade Light 15. Powder, this is too dark. I could use this like a bronzer, but I loved this powder so much I went back and bought a lighter shade, and another product I use a ton off camera. So with this powder, a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just taking a little bit into the cap and I'm going to buff that all over very lightly with my rougher number 30 brush. So the Maybelline Fit Me powder has 4.5 stars based on 21,165 reviews, and it retails for $5.98. So really, really wonderful product. I'm gonna let this kind of set down for just a moment before we move on, because I like to let powders and foundation kind of meld to the skin before I apply color product on top. So for highlighters, we have two different highlighters. So the first one we are going to be looking at is the Rimmel London Highlight Buttery Soft Highlighting Powder, and this is in the shade 001 Stardust. When I was checking Amazon, this was the top rated powder highlight, which I found a little strange because it has 4 stars based on 13 reviews and it retails for $7.99. Further down the list though, we had the Maybelline Master Chrome in the shade 050 Molten Rose Gold. And this has 4.5 stars based on 9,076 reviews and it retails for $10.96. I have talked about this on my channel. It's a nice highlight. For me, it's not my personal favorite because it's a very kind of metallic bling bling highlight and I find it can kind of emphasize my pore texture if I'm not careful. So today I'm going to start off with the Rimmel highlight and I'm going to add the Maybelline on top because this is quite yellow. Shades like this don't always work well for my skin tone. So I'm going to use Anastasia Beverly Hills a 523 highlighting brush and I'm just going to run this on the top of my cheek. It's pretty, it's very soft. It is not emphasizing skin texture. When the light hits it, I have a very kind of golden yellow stripe on my skin, and that's because my skin is quite kind of pinky cool. So yellow and gold is quite a contrast to my natural coloring. So here I think you'll be able to see a little bit more when my lights hit it. Build it up a little bit more just to see what happens. This brush is shedding really bad. This highlight is quite metallic, so especially when light hits it, you can kind of see it's emphasizing pore texture where I do have fine lines here at the outer corners of my eye. So to kind of soften this out, I'm going to take my BK Beauty foundation. I'm going to take my foundation brush, no product, no additional product on it. I'm just going to tap over this to see if I can't kind of smooth that out a little bit. Helped a little bit. So now I'm going to choose the Maybelline Master Chrome Highlight BK Beauty number 106 round top foundation brush. I really like using this foundation brush, even though it's called a foundation brush, with more kind of metallic highlights because I can really buff it into the skin. With this shade being a little bit more pinky, I can hopefully kind of neutralize that strong golden color of this Rimmel highlight. So if I come in closer here, you can see I'm getting a very kind of beaming highlight. There's nothing wrong with highlights like this. If this is your personal style and you like something that is a little bit more dramatic, or you like something that's just going to shine a little bit brighter, you might really like something like this. If you're someone who's looking to minimize the appearance of skin texture, go for something a little bit more subdued or something like a cream highlight because those are going to kind of smooth texture a little bit more compared to something like these more strong metallic highlights. Top rated bronzer was the Rimmel London Natural Bronzer Waterproof Bronzing Powder, and in the top rated shade was Sunshine. I have the shade number 21, Sunlight. This currently has 3.5 stars based on 259 reviews, and it retails for $7.98. And I'm going to use my IT Cosmetics Wand Ball Powder, and I'm going to take this bronzer just very lightly and kind of work it on the back half of my cheeks. Pull it forward softly, just in a soft kind of like circular motion. Just want to kind of hug the cheek, almost applying it where I would apply my blush, because I'm going to use this to kind of start creating a gradient effect with the blush color I'm going to use. Really, really nice. Further down the list, we had a bronzer with more reviews, and that is the Maybelline City Bronzer. I have the shade Light 100. On Amazon, this bronzer has 4.5 stars based on 2,259 reviews, and it retails for $8.96. I used this bronzer in the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation review, and the texture of this bronzer is really, really beautiful. It is a lovely blendable bronzer My issue is the shades all run a little bit more on the warm, kind of yellow golden side, which for me, my skin tone and my undertones, it just really kind of sits on top of my skin as far as the color versus blending in. So while I love the formula, the texture, the price point, it just wasn't a great color for me and my skin. If you have more of a neutral to warm undertone, you might really enjoy this, especially if you have fair skin. Next, we have blush, and there were 2 different blushes on the list, and I checked this list a few days ago, and then I noticed the top position for blush has changed positions. Once again, the blush with the higher number of reviews was lower on the list. So in this case, number 1 and 2 shifted places. So as of me filming this video, the number 1 best-selling powder blush is the CoverGirl's Cheekers blush. I have mine in the shade 120 Soft Sable. So according to Amazon, this has 4.5 stars based on 6,578 reviews, and it retails for $3.99. So this is a very kind of classic CoverGirl drugstore favorite blush. I'm gonna use my IT Cosmetics French Boutique Blush Brush. Just gonna take a little bit because this shade is quite pigmented and it can get a little dark for me, but I absolutely love this color. So I'm gonna take it on my brush, hug the back half of my cheek, concentrate high up on the back of my cheekbone, and work my way forward. So I'm almost applying this shade right between where the bronzer and the highlight are. So this is going to overlap both of those, creating a nice kind of gradient on the cheek. Really beautiful. This has a warm kind of bronzy rose shade. I feel like this shade would work really well for people more light to medium, maybe even medium tan skin tones. One thing with this blush shade, you need to be a fan of shine. On a deeper skin tone, this shade can almost work as like a highlight, especially if you have dark to deep skin, but it is a really beautiful kind of, like I said, neutral rosy bronze shade. And for the price point, if you want a nice kind of luminous blush, you can't beat this one. The other blush on our list is the Maybelline Fit Me blush. I have the shade Light Nude number 15, and the shade on the list they mentioned is the shade Berry. This has 4.5 stars based on 12,982 reviews, and it retails for $8.96. I'm going to use this with the same IT Cosmetics brush, and for this time, I'm going to start on the front of my cheek or the apple. Nice buffing circular motions, and I'm going to work this over top of that previous blush, working back to my hairline. This shade from Maybelline, when I first tried it out in the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation video, I couldn't tell if it was this blush I wasn't a fan of or one of the other products. As that blush, I tried a ton of new products. I have tried this blush several times since then, and while it does have more of like a blue pinky kind of duochrome effect to it, as you can kind of see as I shift my skin, you can kind of see as I turn my face, you can kind of see that a little bit. You need to be a fan of that. If you are okay with that kind of light shift to it and you don't mind a more luminous blush, this is a beautiful blush. And you can get a really nice color payoff depending on how much you apply, the pressure you use, the type of brush you use. You can build this up from a beautiful sheer wash to a nice kind of vibrant flush of color. And I like layering this one with the CoverGirl blush because where the CoverGirl was more of a neutral to slightly warm blush, this is more of a cool blush. The coloring in this is a slightly lighter variant of that CoverGirl shade. So the two colors kind of just blend together quite well. Moving on to eyeshadow, we have the CoverGirl TruNaked palette. And the one they mention is the shade Nudes. I have the shade Roses because I really loved this color family. And this has 4.5 stars based on 4,363 reviews, and it retails for $8.97. So if you can see, it has a really beautiful kind of dusty, mauvey, rosy color family to it. So I'm actually going to use the sponge applicator that comes with it. I'm going to use that larger side, and I'm going to use the first shade in the palette, which is the lightest shade. Oh, and it has shade names on the back. So this lightest shade is called Almond, and I'm just gonna use the sponge applicator, and I'm gonna apply this all over my lid as a base. So you can see, using this little sponge applicator, I'm able to get a really nice, even layer on the lid. A lot of people throw these out. These can be extremely helpful when dealing with especially lighter shades or anything with more of a white base to it, because they're really good for packing on color and pigment. I think I'm gonna go quite smoky with the look. So I'm just going to take any residual product and run it right up to the brow. So now I'm going to go into this kind of mid-tone mauve color, which is called Copper Rose. And I'm going to use the same applicator, and I'm going to pack this all over my eyelid from lash line just to my socket line. When I get to the outer corner of my eye, I'll take my little sponge, create an angle kind of following that invisible line from the tip of my nose, tail of my eyebrow, and I'll just kind of stamp on that little bit of a lift effect I like to create. And having something with a straight edge allows me to get that shape a little bit easier. Then I can even kind of connect it up here, so that way I'm getting that nice lifted effect that's going to help lift the kind of downturned part of my eyelid and kind of minimize the look of the hood on my upper lid. So once I have it on both eyes, I'm not going to add any more product to the sponge. I'm just going to kind of go right above, kind of use this little sponge now to do a little bit of blending and just kind of smudge that color just above where my socket is. This part right now, you're going to be kind of looking two-tone, like you have very kind of like color blocked lids. It's fine, trust the process. Now we're going to go a little bit darker. I'm going to go into the darkest shade of the palette, which is called Mousse. I'm just use that same side of the sponge, and I'm going to concentrate this right at the root of my lash, tilting my chin back, looking down, really concentrate this as like a very thick eyeliner all across my lash line. So you should kind of have something that looks like this. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be thin. It's not going to be delicate. That is fine. So it looks like I have a tiny bit of fallout. I'm just going to use my powder brush, lightly flick. Moved quite easily. This side came out a little bit darker, so I'm just going to take whatever residuals on my sponge and patch up this other side. So now that you have kind of two crazy looking eyes, I'm going to go in now with a clean brush. This is a BK Beauty 503, and I'm just going to start right on the edge. Just kind of do little windshield wiper motions, little circles to start kind of creating our gradient. So now I'm going to flip over to that smaller end of the sponge. I'm going to pick up that same shade. I'm going to go as close as I can using this to stamp this along the upper lash line. So I did get a little bit more fallout, which it's fine. I want to keep the depth here, but I just want to kind of massage it and finesse it just to get a little bit more depth of color, because we're creating a smoky effect. So smoky is just a gradation of dark to light. And another trick, the lighter your pressure is with your brush, the easier this is going to be. Because when you push on the brush, you have too much pressure, you're going to kind of smudge the product. Whereas if you have a lighter grip, you're going to be able to kind of massage it a little bit easier. Now, in that blending process, if something gets under your lower eyes like it did for me, more than okay. I'm going to go into the fourth shade in the palette, which is called Rose Gold. I'm just going to use my index finger. And using my index finger, I'm just going to pat this right over my eyelid. So by adding that veil of shimmer over the eyes, you're still getting that gradation from dark to light, but it's going to help kind of blend everything together. This is kind of like one of the easiest ways to do a smoky eye with powder shadows. And the quicker and the more you do it, the easier it gets. I'm going to use my pinky finger, and I'm going to go into the second shade called Champagne. And I'm just going to stamp this on the inner corner of my eye. So I'm going to go back to the other side of the sponge I didn't use, and I'm going to flip it upwards, keep it vertically, so I'm working with the smaller point. And I'm going to use the third to last shade in the palette called Dusk. And I'm going to use this to create almost a liner under my lower lash line. And then once I have that done on both sides, I'm just going to use this and I'm just going to connect it up a little bit. If I need to, I can use my finger. And then I'm going to use my blending brush again, this time point it up, back and forth. And then I want to get to my outer corner. I'm going to kind of, once I get to this outside corner, I'm going to drag into the outer corner of my upper lid and then buff this back and forth. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of that Maybelline Fit Me powder I used to set the rest of my face, blending eyeshadow brush. And I'm going to use that powder now to go through and buff along the seam of the eyeshadow. So now I'm going to use eyeliner to create more of a grounded effect. That way we're going to have a nice kind of anchor for the smokiness right at the lash line. For that, I'm going to be using the Annabelle Kohl eyeliner. I have the shade Mink. However, on Amazon, the shade listed was the shade Mahogany. Currently on Amazon, this has 4.5 stars based on 1,429 reviews, and it retails between $3.96 and $4.98. So I'm going to use my pencil just to create a very tight line to my upper lash line, going from inner corner to outer corner, doing my best to keep it as thin of a line as I can. Pencil is a little rough, so I'm going to work it on the back of my hand to warm it up a little bit. Once I warmed it up, it was fine going on this side, but when I switched over to this side, I was having a lot more trouble kind of getting it to blend, especially on my lower lash line. So this needs some more. So I want to kind of brighten up my lower lash line a little bit because with some of that fallout when I went to go blend it, it did kind of smoke out a little too much. So I am going to use the NYX Dewy Luminous Setting Spray, and this has 4.5 stars based on 59,268 reviews, and it retails for $8.98. Definitely added a glow to the skin. I'm going to use my foundation brush to press that in. It wasn't a bad mist, it was just very aggressive. You could definitely feel it like hitting the skin. I take a tiny bit of that Maybelline concealer and just tiny little dabs right on the perimeter of the eye. So I'm creating this kind of layer of spray, concealer, spray, so that way the area around where I'm applying this concealer will be a little bit more kind of creamy, so I can blend this concealer a little bit easier since I have applied powder already. And I'm just gonna give it one more set just to kind of smooth that concealer in a little bit more. And then I'm gonna take my foundation brush and give it one more press over. I'm gonna move on to eyebrows, and the top rated eyebrow pencil on Amazon is the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in the shade Ash Brown. I have the shade Taupe. This has 4.5 stars based on 26,424 reviews, and it retails for $9.99. And I'm gonna add a little hold and glossy sheen using the Maybelline Great Lash, which has 4.5 stars based on 12,979 reviews, and it retails for $4.96. So the best-selling lip liner on Amazon is the Maybelline New York Color Sensational Shaping Lip Liner. They specified the shade Brick Red. I am going to be using number 130 Dusty Rose. In this formula, this is my favorite shade. I've tried the number 130 Dusty Rose. I have also tried shades 132 Almond Rose and shade 110 Purely Nude. So I'll show you those swatches real quick. So here is number 110 Purely Nude, 130 Dusty Rose, and 132 Almond Rose. For lipstick, we have another Maybelline product. This is the Maybelline Super Stay Ink. They specified the shade Believer. I have shade number 65 Seductress. This has 4 stars based on 44,857 reviews, and it retails for $8. Here is that shade applied all over. Compared to the rest of the look, this is a little bit warmer, so we are going to cool it down with a gloss. For a liquid lipstick, it's okay. It's not as kind of drying or kind of cracky, crusty feeling on the lips. I'm just not a huge fan of liquid lipsticks. If my lips aren't well prepped beforehand, like any other lipstick, my lips can feel a little bit dry after wearing this. For For gloss, we have two more that were kind of neck and neck. So the first gloss we're going to be using is the NYX Butter Gloss. And I have the shade Tiramisu, which is the shade featured by Amazon. This has 4.5 stars based on 20,866 reviews. And it retails for $7.98. Wow, so this is a lot of attention to the lips. Not expecting that. So with the NYX gloss, I do have two shades. So we have Tiramisu, which was the featured shade on Amazon. So there it is, a nice kind of blue-based pink. The other shade of this I have in my collection is the shade Creme Brulee. This was the first shade I bought, and it's not a bad shade, kind of overlapped, but under that shade, it's the lighter, more kind of warm pink. It's more of a pastel pink. I just don't love this shade on my lips. For me, it just really kind of clashes with my skin tone, and it looks too much, if that makes any sense. At the #1 spot on Amazon for lip gloss, we had the Maybelline Lifter Glosses. I love this, as I have 5 shades. And these have, like everything else, 4.5 stars based on 12,262 reviews. And they retail for $8.96 a piece. And I'm going to be using shade 002 Ice. This look would not be complete without mascara. So the top spot for mascara was the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise in the shade Black Brown, which is the shade I have. Has 4.5 stars based on 26,607 reviews, and it retails for $8.99. Okay, so here we have, so now mascara is on. I blotted down the lip a little bit because the lip is just way too much with this lip, despite being like a nude color. Here we have our smoky look using some of the top rated, best reviewed products that you can find on Amazon. I really like this look. I like how the shadows are really popping my eye color. I really enjoy how this kind of came out all together, and I'm happy with it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend you think might enjoy it. If you have tried any of these products, or there are some other fun, affordable products that you would like for me to try, let me know in the comments down below. I will see you all on the next video. Bye, y'all.